Welcome to week 5 of the LEC. I'm Medic, joined by Dagda and Vedius, and we see Rekkles here with Boaster's headband on. A headband that is infamous in the Valorant scene for the Fnatic team. Undefeated are Fnatic Valorant, while their in-game leader Boaster has been wearing that orange headband.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Boaster, professional Valorant player.
That's why he plays for the Fnatic Valorant team, that I mentioned a couple of times.
But during their run, I forget the name of the tournament. It was the Lock-in tournament? Yeah, the Lock-in tournament. It was in best of.
Were you not
He
on
still lost
Valorant
individual games. Yeah, I'm just saying, but in terms of individual games, while there have been losses for Boaster,
they haven't lost a map.
He hasn't lost a single series.
They're like 18-2, I think, across the last 18 games
so
they played.
Rekkles hoping to rob off some of that luck. We'll see if it pans out.
Of course, this best of 3 is an elimination game between these two teams. The loser is out of Spring Split and possibly out of contention for MSI as well. Fnatic wouldn't be able to make it. MAD, there's still a couple of ways they can make it via championship points, but obviously you want to take the title and take that first seed going into MSI. We're into draft. Fnatic elected red side for this first game, and Olaf, Xayah, and Annie are already banned away.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out pretty well for them previously. I think the red side works out because they can go for things like the Varus, which I think was a massive pick for Rekkles. But I'm also kind of curious to see things like the LeBlanc and the Jace that were perma-banned in their last series now being left open here as well.
I'm interested in this Olaf ban. MAD Lions last split, when they were successful during the best of 5s and the best of 3s, it was largely because they were able to successfully place through Chasy. And we've seen from recent weeks Oscarinin playing a lot more carries, being willing to fight you toe-to-toe in the top side of the map. We saw him bringing out this Olaf against Finn's Elyoya, and he had a lot of success on it, so showcasing that respect towards Oscarinin in the top side of the map, with Fnatic mainly just targeting away some of the strong bot side picks with Annie and Rakan, but there's that Jace, that top side focus once again. We'll see what MAD focus now as we move into the picks.
Also, a lot of respect given to Humanoid on the Lissandra. He had a phenomenal 2 games coming into that pick and really did give a lot towards Razork and Humanoid playing through that mid-jungle, so not surprised to see that taken away. The blind Vi, though, does mean that potentially we're going to see Vi on the other side.
Wait, just
so people understand, it's not Vi. It's not. Just so people are aware.
Arcade Season 2,
no, it's not. Okay, this also isn't. Okay, so just to just letting people know. So Vi, Gragas, and Zeri have been locked in for MAD Lions, with Fnatic locking in Ahri, Wukong, and Sivir now on the red side. So we're looking to get that rectified as quickly as possible. But what a twist that would be in Arcade Season 2, right?
It's 2 Vi's, actually just 12.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's Stranger Things, right?
Stop it.
It's just Stranger Things, yeah, as you say. Vi, Gragas, Zeri for the MAD Lions, Ahri, Wukong, and Sivir locked in now for Fnatic.
And that's why I haven't been the biggest fan of this first pick 5 pretty much across the board. Like Sivir, Spell Shield, Shield's going to be totally fine. Same when you look at Ahri, you will try and ult Ahri, she just goes the other direction, brings you with her. So I think teams have started to adapt away from the Vi in a lot of situations, but we'll have to see how comfortable they're going to be now with this Gragas being paired with it towards the mid lane.
So yeah, you can see the picks behind the players. Ahri, Wukong, and Sivir, of course, locked in for Fnatic so far. Veigar has now been banned away on the side of Fnatic, with Malphite coming out from the side of MAD Lions. We saw this a lot from LPL. We've seen it from LCK. Malphite just being a generic ban now, considering its strength, the great itemized, the build options that it does have now, along with just how well it does into so many different champions. The respect being shown once again towards that top side of the map, with Pyke being taken away from Hylissang. But many know how terrifying he can be on the champion.
I mean, Fnatic know firsthand how terrifying he can be on the champion. So many times he was able to carry them to victories here, playing up against his old former team and his old AD carry duo. Last time Fnatic actually picked up a win in the LEC was back in 2018, when it was Rekkles and Hylissang in the bottom lane for them. There's the Lulu ban to round things out for MAD Lions. Fnatic now probably going to look towards, you could go blind top, or you could look and pick your support right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the thought process here is like you compare the Lulu with the Sivir, so instead of going with the Zeri, they're going to take it away. But the biggest problem is like, what do you try and go with? Nautilus or something like that? You could try, but it's great, not that great into the Sivir. Also not great into a lot of what Fnatic have on the opposite side. So I'm actually pretty curious as to exactly what Hilly's going to play, especially with the Renata locked in here. You know MAD Lions want to dive in on top of you if you kind of want more engage to feed into that. But it feels like Fnatic have a great composition here to deal with it.
And the issue is Renata really stops a lot of that engage in the bottom lane. Like I was thinking maybe something like the Rell, which is going to get locked in, but Renata can stop that possible engage. There's the Kennen though, and you see MAD Lions. This is a press R comp if I've ever seen one. Gragas, Vi, Kennen, and Rell all just jumping in on that target.
But that's the big problem here, right? MAD, with your first pick 5, kind of just given away the playbook. We're like, hey, we want to play for dive, we want to play short range, and I think Fnatic have just responded well. You've got great disengage with the Wukong, you've even got the Jarvan, which is the counter into the Kennen that we've seen come up, so good engage, great disengage, and also you've got the ability to just kind of wait for that Sivir to scale into the late game. So I think there's going to be a lot of execution here on MAD Lions, and when you've got so much zone control that Fnatic bring to the board, it's not going to be an easy task to try and play these team fights.
Yeah, I feel like that MAD are still showing what they showed us in winter, frankly. We're still seeing this high priority on the Gragas. This mid-jungle duo actually benefited them a lot in winter, but teams have gotten a lot better at playing through their top side of the map and shutting down something that separated MAD from the rest of the pack last split. They have brought out the Kennen. I am excited to see Chasy on this Kennen, and as you've highlighted, a lot of team fighting potential here, but Dagda, I think you summarized it really well with Fnatic having just strong disengage, a lot of mobility, a lot of pick potential, a lot of team fighting tools. It's going to be interesting. I expect these dragon fights to be bloody.
And I think that's where a lot of this is going to come down to. Maybe with the extra little bit of push that you have with the Ahri in the mid lane, you can try and play down in those early levels, try and set up for the dragon. But I mean, either way, it feels like you're going to have very much a case of, can you find a quick pick, maybe through mid, maybe with the jungles, to try and give yourself an advantage toward dragon. But in these early skirmishes, it can really go either direction, depending on how teams approach these dragons.
Huge series for both these teams. Fnatic, after missing the group stage in winter, now looking to try and make it into our top 4. Still Astralis standing in both of these teams' way. Let's see who can strike first in Fnatic versus MAD. MAD, 5 players strong down towards this bottom side to start off. You can see Advienne just placing the more defensive ward. You can step forward and try and get a deeper ward into that second bush, but this ward just allows you to back away, especially when the rest of your team isn't here. It's the one we see most commonly. Sweeper used by Elyoya to get rid of it. But importantly, this means that Humanoid has time to step in and get a ward of his own around the Razor Beaks.
It should give you a little bit of information as to what exactly Elyoya is doing. I think MAD would love to try and get control of this bot side, which is why you can kind of see them here. And maybe they have Elyoya move up towards this top side so they can try and play for the 2v2. But I'm actually glancing at Elyoya. It looks like he is going to move over towards his red buff. So with the range advantage Fnatic have in the bot lane, they should get control in that lane.
I'm interested to see how some of these early plays kind of work out. This mid lane matchup in particular, in terms of getting that early push. Oh. Well played there by Rekkles, securing that early ward. The mid matchup can be pretty interesting because Ahri's wave clear at the start, not the strongest, but Gragas can be so annoying with his W in particular. He can like soak up a lot of the trade tools that actually give you the ability to actually maintain push in a wave like this, especially when Ahri doesn't have many points in her queue. Naturally, as the levels come through, Ahri will have a little bit more control in the matchup, but you were talking about the bot lane matchup earlier, Dagda. We can see early on, Carzzy and Hylissang, the reason why they wanted to cut off Rekkles and Advienne's route into the lane was so that they could get to the wave first. And now Hylissang is in a great position where he can start threatening on the 2 versus 2, and it will give them that early push. So for the time being, Chasy would push up top, MAD would push down bot, and Humanoid would slow push in the mid lane. Yeah,
the wave isn't in a great spot in this bot lane though, because you're not really going to be able to push too hard here as Hilly, and you can freeze it as Advienne and Rekkles. You got to watch out. Razork has gone from red down towards this bottom side, so they really need to get this crash and make sure the Rekkles and Advienne are keeping this wave just in reach of the jungler.
Of course, they will have that additional bit of information. Razork will be spotted out on a ward. I imagine that Elyoya also spotted. Remember that early vision invested by Humanoid? I didn't quite catch if he was spotted on the ward, unfortunately, but Carzzy going to use his pressure to drop a bit of early vision as Elyoya looks for a gank in mid.
Looking for it. Nisqy going in with the flash as well. Humanoid going to try and get away. Does still have the flash. Elyoya flashes over the wall. Humanoid flashes back. Elyoya with the red buff slow. Can't quite catch out Humanoid. Elyoya predicting, and Humanoid with the patience to hold his summoner spell.
Yeah, Elyoya thinking too many steps ahead as Hylissang now looks for a fight.
Yeah, but Advienne can just handshake Carzzy back. Gets the shield as well. The Ignite goes down onto Carzzy. No vision in the bush for Fnatic, but that Ignite helping them, giving them that little bit extra awareness so they could still put the damage down onto Carzzy.
They know Razork's on this bottom side, so MAD really want to try and get this wave pushed in. Hyli trying to play aggressive with the level 3, but Razork on the way has been spotted on that ward that Carzzy placed earlier.
They got to back away, but the handshake's going to pull Hylissang back. Still flashes available for Hylissang and for Carzzy. Hylissang uses the Pheromancy to try and get a shield. Won't be able to get away from this one as Razork claims first blood.
And they already knew that this was going to happen. MAD already spotted Razork on that the bot side jungle. They knew everything, but trying to take that aggressive trade really came back to hurt them. And it's first blood over towards Fnatic.
Ultimately a big blunder from the bot lane of MAD Lions. You can see that the idea is to push another wave in, as you are highlighting, Dagda, so that they can then get a good reset off. But it took them too long. They took too much damage, and they had no way of escaping. Hylissang held onto his flash for now, because he realized even if he did flash, it likely would have still resulted in his death. So Fnatic, they will draw first blood, get a small lead. Let's see if they can punish Humanoid.
Great charm from Humanoid as Elyoya was going in with a Vault Breaker. Obviously, a very powerful ability from the Ahri. Advienne here coming to try and help Humanoid push out the wave, but with 3 members of MAD, might be a little bit tricky to get it all the way under that tower.
Humanoid trading incredibly well against Nisqy in this early game. He's landed almost every single Q onto Nisqy, and it's just allowed him to chip away at the HP bar of the Gragas and allow him to get this early push. And just really great awareness. We saw strong performance from him last week on the Lissandra. We're continuing to see him off to a good start here against against MAD, rather.
And both mid laners up against their former teams as well. So definitely want to try and make that that little bit of a grudge match go in their favor. And right now, Humanoid has been able to come out on top several times. Still not really able to get control on the spot side, though, are Fnatic, with at least the roam coming up from Hylissang. So curious to see now what does happen with these early dragons. You're still getting Carzzy and Hyli pushing very aggressive in that bot side, and Chasy trying to get vision on the top end. So pretty much full control when you look over towards MAD Lions on exact information on where Razork is.
I will say, we've talked a lot about this mid and bot side of the map, and the person that's benefited the most from this has been Chasy. He's just been free to play the 1v1 matchup, and he has just been bullying Oscarinin. The idea behind the Jarvan is that you can harass and farm from safety by maxing your E alongside the areas you can see right now. But level 6.
Slicing Maelstrom coming in. Oscarinin's going to have to flash. Burns it to get away. I think Chasy knew that if Oscarinin burnt his summoner, he would be able to escape. You can see Elyoya on his way up here, perhaps looking to capitalize on the fact that Oscarinin no longer has that summoner.
Oscarinin so close to the level 6, though. Just 1 or 2 more creeps that actually push him over the edge, but there it is.
There it is.
Just hit. Can Elyoya actually make this play work? No flash available for the VoD.
The wave's in such an awkward spot because of this cannon minion. There's another wave that's going to come through now, and so much time is being spent here. You can see a ping has even come down from Fnatic. They're suspicious that Elyoya is very likely hovering around. Elyoya making the decision, you know what, we just need to push this wave in, and while that's all happening, Fnatic secure the dragon.
And that's the thing, Fnatic, they had Oscarinin play that little bit more safe, backed away underneath the tower. They get the dragon now, and even though MAD Lions had the push in the bot lane, had a good position in mid, it's Fnatic who get the first neutral.
And at least Oscarinin gets to pick up this wave as well. So nicely done by Fnatic, really controlling this early stage of the game fantastically. And again, you've got opportunities now for Razork, who's going to be hitting level 6 fairly soon himself, to then start making more of these plays happen, especially if Humanoid wants to try and get this push in mid, roam down towards bot side, or even try and play up towards the Chasy on the top end, who'll be vulnerable with the everything the Jarvan has to offer.
If we also take a look at the minimap, you'll notice that the wards being invested from Fnatic around this bot side jungle gives so much more safety to Rekkles and Advienne. And then Humanoid continuing to move into the fog of war. Observers highlighting that vision for us right now. Thank you, observers. But you can very clearly see what the game plan is for Fnatic. While some things change, others stay the same, and Fnatic playing for their bot lane. It's been a while since we've already seen this level of investment, but trying true to the old style of Fnatic, make sure Rekkles gets ahead. And Rekkles Sivir, he was the original 500 CS meme, you know what I mean? He was the guy that, don't worry guys, it doesn't matter how bad the game looks, as long as we can farm, we'll be fine. And we'll see if Fnatic can come out on top. So far this early game, very even overall.
And although Sivir and Navoid Quick Blades was actually nerfed on 13.5 or 13.6, Sivir is actually a great proponent of it, because if you use your W, you get so much more damage through the waves. Your Q as well with that enhanced damage can do a huge amount of work. And late game, it's very difficult to deal with the fact that Sivir can just AFK farm waves. How do you ever get underneath the tower? How do you ever push him for a siege? Especially with Mad's composition being such short range, they're going to have to try and isolate Rekkles, but there's so much disengage on Fnatic, and Rekkles has his spell shield. It's going to be very tricky for Mad if they do start falling behind in this game.
Yeah, it feels like you kind of got to rely on Elyoya or Nisqy to get kind of a 1-2 punch to get the spell shield down and then follow up with one of those big ultimates. Might see it in a second here as both teams starting to move up towards this Rift Herald. Push for chasing the top side makes it very difficult for Fnatic to really have control, although, as I say that, might actually get caught out here.
Crushing blow just takes a little bit of its health, but not really going to do too much. Good charm into the body slam there. Advienne coming across. Hylissang joining. Explosive cast. Humanoid flashes it. Carzzy looking for a bit of damage, but Humanoid was able to escape. And with the help of Advienne, can keep the Mad Lions at bay. Mad Lions up towards this top side, looking for Oscarinin. EQs away, buffers it, and escapes from the Vault Breaker. No stun landing either from Chasy. Didn't have the full 3 marks of the storm.
Now, Razork going to move over to start up this Rift Herald. You're still, as you say, have all the ultimates and also the flashes available on this top side. Oscarinin doesn't have his, so with Nisqy now starting to hoosh in,
don't fight this.
Going to be in trouble.
Like, both of your bot laners are bot, Mad Lions. If you take this fight, you are going to be undermanned. If Oscarinin comes down from that top lane, he's currently catching the wave. They're just looking to reset the patience, and they will manage to do that. You can see Hylissang slowly working his way up here. Does have the level 6, so a slight advantage for Mad if they're able to take this fight.
The reset on the Rift Herald was huge, though. It actually bought time for Hilly to come in now, so it's still the potential here to look for a fight. Fnatic very split up. That was a smite from Elyoya, though.
It's a very awkward situation for both teams right now, but Mad seem to be way more comfortable. Fnatic looking for the collapse.
Mad just willing to wait it out. Cease and desist goes in. Razork the one locked up. The Cataclysm blocks them, but there's the engage. Magnet Storm on 2 as Hylissang manages to find one. The second kill goes over to Chasy. Humanoid dashing in with a Spirit Rush, but Mad Lion's still very healthy. Can try and lock him down, slicing Maelstrom in. The double body bump, and there's the bomber they were looking for. Hylissang yoinks Oscarinin back, and even though Oscarinin is underneath his own tower, Nisqy will claim his life. A double for Mad Lions, a double for Nisqy, and a beautiful fight for them in the top side.
They bought the time that they needed for Mad Lions to collapse, and Fnatic completely spread out. Humanoid couldn't get involved, and a brilliant pickup for Mad Lions off the back of this.
I think Mad just made a great decision to force the engage. They saw that Fnatic was creating this collapse with Ahri coming in from the bottom of the river and the rest of Fnatic coming in through the top. And typically you would attack the weak side flanker, the single player trying to create the flank. But with Humanoid being on Ahri, the mobility could make it much harder for Elyoya to follow up, or the rest of the team to follow up rather. So Elyoya just says, you know what, I'm going to ult Razork, let's just collapse. In this choke point, Chasy is set up for success.
And the fact that Advienne hadn't hit level 6,
so big.
Huge, but Humanoid.
The fact he didn't have that hostile takeover as Humanoid caught out in the mid lane, he's going to fall as well. And it's beginning to look a little bit pear-shaped for Fnatic. 5 kills to 1, a 1.5k gold lead for Mad Lions, and the Rift Herald alongside it.
And this working through the top side of the map was what we saw from Mad Lions in the previous series. They worked really well together until it went a bit too far and it came back to bite them. So we'll have to see if Mad Lions can kind of keep up this pressure without overstepping. But right now with 3 kills onto the Gragas, Kennen in control on the top side, it's looking damn good for the Mad Lions.
It certainly is. Mad Lions took a single fight and they were able to punish Fnatic, and one of the things that Fnatic have been criticized for is their coordination. This is one of the scary things about the Mad Lions, regardless of their performance. This player, or this team rather, has always consisted of some of the best team fighters in the league. You think of players like Elyoya, players like Carzzy, these two won championships here in the LEC thanks to their miraculous team fights, and they're not afraid to go in for the fight. Now, of course, Carzzy wasn't here, but Elyoya saw the window, finds it, makes it work. Now, the Dragon will be secured by Fnatic. They do definitely still have a win condition here, and I will add scaling for both teams is still very important. When you have Sivir and Zeri in the game, late game team fights is something that's always going to be a potential win condition for either side.
I will say it does become difficult for Fnatic though if they start to lose control of the game. If you're the one that's coming in dark into a potential flanking Kennen, Gragas on the sideline, hell even Hilly as well, that can be where you really start to fall apart in team fights. And you kind of hit the nail on the head, Vedi. I think it's going to be a huge amount of coordination from Fnatic to make sure that Oscarinin is keeping one flank under control, Advienne has the other. And that's where I think the big question mark is for Fnatic with this squad.
feels like a lot of it comes down to the next Dragon fight as well. If Fnatic can be first on target, their disengage is very strong. The hostile takeover, the Cyclone, the Cataclysm works wonders if MAD are trying to invest everything on one target, but if Fnatic are the ones walking into the darkness, it becomes a lot trickier for the MAD Lions, though. In prime form, it seems that one fight really rocketing them up in terms of gold lead and putting Nisqy in such a prime position to carry as well. This guy, remember, it was winter when his Gragas really came to the fore. We saw FLICKR play it once in the LCK, and then Nisqy's like, yeah, I can do that too. And teams started having to ban it against him. It was let through the draft this time, and I wonder if Fnatic are ruining that decision a little bit.
Well, I will say that Humanoid, for the most part, had control over the mid lane matchup.
Yep.
Like, things were going really well for Humanoid. Even after all the ganks were invested mid, we saw 2, 3 ganks committed. It wasn't until the third gank where Humanoid had no flash or ultimate that he really ended up falling short. But I think the Humanoid really had Nisqy's number, but now that the itemization is so vastly different, Ahri's going to struggle to have the same level of control and basically trading tools that she had earlier in the lane.
And it does feel like at the moment MAD Lions are trying to set up for a play on this bottom side with Nisqy. You can see a lot of vision invested onto that bot side. We'll need to clear out a lot of what Fnatic have kind of responded with there, but it definitely feels like they want to try and now repay Carzzy for the time that the rest of the team has spent away from him.
Humanoid bot knocked back here. The stun's going to land as well. Humanoid locked in with the Magnet Storm flashes. Charms the shield will get him to safety. But the ultimate and the flash have to be burnt to escape. The barrel goes behind the tower. Humanoid now is still able to walk away from that fight as the Slicing Maelstrom is used in the top lane just to chunk out Oscarinin. You can see Elyoya waiting just around the corner. Oscarinin goes in, Cataclysm locks him up, and Elyoya's tanking. And he's tanky enough to do this for a while. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Razork was looking for something, but couldn't find the engage that he wanted.
I mean, nice response from Elyoya. Sees how many members of Fnatic are hovering around mid, is like, fantastic. Means there's nobody up in this top end, so immediately manages to work with Chasy, get that first turret for themselves as well, and now they will be able to just continue to put the vision down that they need, continue to keep this pressure up, and MAD Lions coming out swinging in this first game.
I think the biggest thing for me is that this now unlocks Chasy on the map, right? You funneled all this gold into him. You can see he has a 1.7k gold advantage over Oscarinin. This is a large part of the gold lead that MAD have over Fnatic for the time being. And being able to move him into mid and then have way more time that he can just spend mid, he can then push the top wave in and then move back to mid again. Having that mid presence then means that you can concentrate more members to the bot side of the map. And so now MAD can start looking to play for these bot towers, this mid tower, and more importantly, this third Drake.
And you have to feel that's where the battle lines will be drawn. 3 minutes on it. MAD Lions in very good form, especially considering over the course of spring, they've really struggled to actually pick up too many kills, have one of the lowest KD ratios of any team in our league. And you can see have the highest average deaths per game as well. So they usually really struggle through this early game. It's a strong sign for them that they've been able to find a couple of fights here, been able to get this early lead.
Yeah, we wanted to highlight how much MAD have struggled in terms of just they're dying a lot. Like, they die way more than they typically have. And while this team historically has always been, I would say, a bloody team, like as we said, MAD Lions were known as one of the best team fighting teams in Europe. It's surprising to see them die so often while not being able to get those kills. And it's funny because expectations for MAD would be that when you have a Carzzy Hylissang bot lane, that's what we were expecting. Yeah. So for them to start winter with so much consistency and reliability was a surprise to many. Obviously, this split, though, has not been quite the same story for MAD Lions as they now find themselves in the face of elimination against Fnatic. The loser will, of course, be knocked out of their chance of winning the Spring Split.
Yeah, Fnatic trying to see if they can find that rematch against Astralis, but MAD Lions already kind of taking control over this bot side, now working to take that dragon away from the hands of Fnatic, are definitely going to put up a very good fight. Chasy, TP going to be up momentarily, so can get down towards this dragon just as it kicks off, but TP in behind Nisqy now.
So Nisqy has the flash, has the explosive cast. Humanoid goes in, looks for the Everfrost. Nisqy with the cast, knocks him back, but the charm lands, and that means Nisqy is in for a world of hurt. Looking for perhaps some damage on the tower before he does go down. Good reactions by Fnatic to pick up a kill in the bottom lane, but look at what MAD are doing in the mid. They're trying to open up the map.
Fnatic exploited the timing window. Chasy just not quite having that TP up and available, so they find that play onto the bottom side. Now, though, mid-turret taken, you're going to have another fight here for MAD Lions.
Timer in the top left is incorrect. As you can see, there is a dragon on your screens right now. Fnatic looking to secure it. Would be their third of the game. We put them on soul point. MAD Lions trying to play around at the Magnet Storm going in. Rekkles trying to get away from the back line here. Oscarinin going in as well with the Cataclysm, the Slicing Maelstrom from Chasy. As you say, it's huge, but Rekkles still alive, and he's opening up on this Sivir. He's done this so many times in the past. Rekkles survives Chasy nullified. Fnatic find the fight, but Nisqy TPing in is going to try and take out Razork. He's the smite, remember. He dashes across the wall. The dragon now secured for Fnatic. And even though the slicing maelstrom came in from Chasy, Fnatic was somehow able to survive.
And we talk about how the fights around Dragon are going to be so important. Let's just keep an eye on Rekkles here. He gets engaged on by the entirety of MAD Lions, but he's able to get away to safety. Then the collapse from Chasy flashes out to safety. Meanwhile, Oscarinin just buying time with his ultimate on the backline, keeping Carzzy and Elyoya locked up, which then allows Rekkles to then re-engage on the fight, as Razork is doing so much damage alongside the rest of Fnatic. Nisqy then rejoins the fight, but ultimately the criticism for the failure of this fight needs to go towards Nisqy. The fact that he overstayed in the bot side of the map, the fact that MAD thought that he could just solo take that tower, he wasted so much time just as the dragon was spawning. He ends up dying, and it gives Fnatic a window back into this game, and a very clean one at that. Third dragon now on the board. Rekkles now working towards his second major item. Fnatic definitely seems online.
Fnatic even have the opportunity to go up towards this Rift Herald as well if they want to. You can see MAD just kind of saying, hey, look, we don't really feel like we're in a position to fight. We're going to lean a lot down towards this bottom side. So definitely a Fnatic objective. We'll trade bot lane turret for it, but could definitely be worth it if they can try and crack open mid.
I think we've seen a sign of how Fnatic's perfect team fight would go, you know? Hostile takeover locks up the majority of the team. The Cataclysm follows up on top of that, and then even though the Slicing Maelstrom got the entirety of the backline, Rekkles with the spell shield, with the flash, is able just to open up on Chasy. MAD Lions will have to navigate their way around teamfights to make sure that doesn't happen again.
And I think one of the biggest things you always have to think about, especially in Zeri, Sivir matchups, is how much backline threat is there?
Yep.
How afraid are you for your AD carry? Nisqy going in, flash from Advienne because he was worried about getting knocked back. Should be able to EQ out of this one. Oscarinin, even though he's taking a lot of damage. Oh, that's Razork.
Chasy's coming in as well. Razork will be able to escape the Slicing Maelstrom coming in. Nisqy gets the body bump across the wall, and MAD Lions decided to take the fight, but look at the hostile takeover. Everyone goes berserk. Oscarinin EQ. It was stopped by the Magnus Storm. I think he was pulled out of the range, and that's going to be another fallen Fnatic player. 2 kills over to MAD, even though they lost the Herald.
Completely disjointed fight from Fnatic, though. You could see that Humanoid was still pushing in the bot side, didn't want to join into the play, but the rest of Fnatic were like, hey, we can take this once we got that big hostile takeover. Kind of baited them in, and MAD Lions punish and pick up 2.
It did seem like they were indecisive in that moment, as you were highlighting, Dagda. MAD, all 5 members alive, Razork dead. I was wondering if they were going to consider the Baron there, but it looks like that they will not for now. So 3 members on the Herald. You can see Rekkles using the Blast Gun to create a little bit more space between him. I thought it was Oscarinin that got engaged on. My apologies. It was Razork. Gets locked up. He's trying to get close enough to the wall to be able to jump over it, but Chasy's cutting off his line of escape. So the moment that Razork does, well, there's nowhere left for him to go. He's then... And then you look at this hostile takeover that comes out from Advienne, lands on all 5 members, and Fnatic's like, oh, this is a really good fight. Wait, hang on a minute. No, it's not. And as you called, Medic, the Magnus Storm does pull him just out of range, which means that Oscarinin also ends up losing his life. 2 quick picks for the MAD Lions. I think Fnatic, they did secure the Herald. Now we're looking for another fight.
Knock up onto Elyoya. Double TP comes in. Chasy trying to fight this one as well. Advienne dashing forward, putting a bit of shielding in, and in the end, it's just teleport for teleport exchanged, ultimate for ultimate exchanged between the junglers. And MAD Lions, even though they did lose out that fight around the dragon, still have a 4,500 gold lead as we get ready to set up for what would be Chemtech Soul for Fnatic.
At least for MAD Lions, Chasy will have his TP up and available as that dragon spawns, so should be able to reset, go up towards the top side if he wants to, as he actually is going to continue to push out bot lane, but at least try and create some pressure that Fnatic have to try and deal with before he comes into that fight. Looks like he isn't going to try and go for it though. Instead, they just want to try and group up and make sure they can keep vision around the objective before it all kicks off.
I'm just having a look at how close we are in terms of item spikes. Advienne still yet to pick up his mythic. He's a while away. He needs about 400 more gold if he wants to get Shirelia's.
Navori for both AD carries.
Navori just finished on Rekkles. Humanoid was sitting on about 1.5k as well, so I'm sure he'll want to get his next item in the next 40 seconds. Chasy's trying to stop him from being able to recall safely, but he will now manage to get his back off. Decides to cancel it. MAD Lions start up the Baron.
Humanoid has no TP,
as you say, Vedi, on Humanoid. No vision for Fnatic. Now they know Far side alteration goes in. Nisqy acting as a bouncer, body blocking Fnatic from getting into the pit here. Razork, though, can just dash across the wall, but it looks like MAD just want to take the fight. TP comes forward. They're looking at Razork, and immediately he is shut out of the fight. The hostile takeover does nothing, and MAD Lions, after killing the jungler, turn their eyes back towards the Baron.
It's just such a clean play from MAD. They see Humanoid bot lane. He doesn't have the teleport. Chasy's TP is literally just about to come up, and in the chaos, by starting the Baron, Fnatic panic, Razork gets too close, and MAD immediately turn it into a fight, and now they secure the objective without any contest. They have to rush towards the dragon, but with no smite available on Razork, it should be easy pickings for MAD.
Yeah, and it makes it just a super nice play for MAD. Kind of highlight, I thought the Chasy would go top. Instead, he actually stays bot and then TP's the top side. So nicely done there. Now MAD going to be able to steal away this first dragon. They have a decent amount of push they can go for as well to start to crack open these outer structures and really start to accelerate the gold lead that's already opening up nicely for them.
We are 23 minutes into this game, and MAD Lions do have that 5,000 gold lead. There were a couple of fights that Fnatic looked like they were getting back into it, but moments like this is what MAD Lions did so well in winter, and they seem to have returned to that form.
Yeah, I mean, great to see MAD Lions, a draft that's working well for them, playing towards their strengths and being able to lean into now. Maybe you can try play through the strong mid jungle and lead that into the later team fights. Chasy will spot out Fnatic, but a great handshake will shut that play down.
Elyoya can jump across this wall. The attract repel, the stun already on him as well. Hylissang will dash over with the Pheromancer to crash down, and Oscarinin the target. You can see Advienne going to be able to get the base off, but the cease and desist on Oscarinin. He is popped. That Jarvan not tanky at all. Advienne gets away.
Elyoya didn't quite have the Q up. Nisqy now looking for a fight against Humanoids.
And even though Humanoid won the early laning phase, it becomes very difficult to deal with the Gragas when he does get to these two items. Humanoid going back in with a Spirit Rush, but Nisqy with the shield from the Seraphs makes him very difficult to deal with. Razork does manage to smite away the red, but it's a small mercy for them. The rest of the map very much in favor of the MAD Lions. You can see Nisqy flanked here in the bottom lane, but Razork just going to clear out, Rekkles going to clear out the vision and then have to back away.
But both carries for Fnatic showing in the bot side means that MAD get to push in on top. They're actually pushing in the mid as well because they know Fnatic are just going to spread too thin as Oscarinin is only coming back onto the map.
MAD Lions pressuring multiple lanes now. Fnatic looking for a potential pick. And it was looking good in the early game for Fnatic, keeping in that neutral, relatively even game state by picking up these dragons. But it all came down to a very unfortunate fight for them. They're looking for a collapse onto Chasy. Level 15 Kennen. I don't know if they have the damage to kill him.
Humanoid has the ultimate. Oscarinin coming in here as well. There's no tower for Chasy. He'd have to get all the way back to the tier 2, and Humanoid dodging at the edge of the slicing maelstrom perfectly. Oscarinin won't invest the Cataclysm, but they will pick up the kill. Meanwhile, though, MAD Lions, they're like, okay, cool, you invest 5 people into the top lane. Your inhibitor is forfeit for that. Alongside your tier 2 in the bottom lane, Carzzy and Elyoya will at least be able to take the inhibitor tower. The recalls do come out from Fnatic, so the inhibitor won't go down. But Nisqy gets a tier 2 in the bottom lane as well. And in the end, the towers stand at 7-2 in favor of MAD Lions.
And that's the last few passages of play where MAD Lions have gone, cool, Fnatic, we can see exactly what you're doing, but we have a response. Chasy TP to the Baron, they get the Baron. Then you invest too many members onto bot side, they get top turret, they get mid turret, and then once more Fnatic overextend, and they get that inhibitor turret. Really nice job from MAD Lions to read the map.
It's ultimately just good lane assignments from the MAD Lions, right? Just having a really great awareness of like what they can and cannot do. The double TP they're using incredibly effectively. The fact that they can just send Nisqy or Chasy down towards that side lane, and Nisqy doesn't have to win the side lane. Just on the Gragas, he has a lot of safety overall. He did, of course, make that mistake earlier by overstaying on bot, where Fnatic, with a good TP of their own, was able to get a good pick onto him, converted into their third dragon. But aside of that, it's really been the MAD show. Carzzy hasn't really had to do much this game. He's just been farming away. Is going to continue to be that damage threat now that his third item is completed. The only real, what's the word for it, kind of saving grace potentially for Fnatic is still Rekkles. 3 items finished for him, yet to die this game, has both summoners up, level 14. And remember, he can wave clear for days. Even if the super minions start sieging onto the base, as long as he is alive, Fnatic have a way to stall things out. And that's ultimately what Fnatic are waiting for. While the teamfight damage overall, I definitely think is in favor of MAD Lions, Fnatic have ways that they can win the fight. It ultimately comes down to execution.
And I'll have to see if you can find a position for Chasy to try and get that flank, see if he can come in, make it a little bit more creative, so it's not just an easy front to back. As Fnatic might be caught already, if MAD Lions just trying to push them back, make sure that they can't enter into their bot side jungle ahead of this dragon in a minute's time.
Nisqy ultimate around 60-second cooldown at this point in the game, so it doesn't really matter that he used the explosive cast there. You can see some Fnatic vision, but that is the Chem Soul warding Scryer's Bloom. That's what it's called. So it spots out all 3 of those wards around there now. Fnatic in darkness. The warding thing, man, you know? There's a few of them. I always call the Relic Shield Sightstone still, because I'm too used to that. But it looks like Fnatic actually might just give up any pretense of fighting towards that Drake. They know that they really don't have the stats to face MAD in a pure 5v5 right now. Chasy as well at 3 items with the Shadow Flame Void Staff finished as well.
16 just hit off there as well for the Kennen, so incredibly strong if they can try and fight, but I don't even think Fnatic want to touch it. Immediately they're like, hell no, we're moving up towards this top side. We're going to try and play for the Baron instead, see if we can get some push into the top lane, but MAD Lions, again, just they've been playing this so well when it comes towards controlling the space in the map, making sure Fnatic can't really find any opportunities, like even the push in top lane. When Nisqy's already reset, we'll be able to clear out the wave, so just really good job here from MAD.
Yep, they've kept mid and bot pushed in perfectly, and they've also timed the back so that the 2 members of MAD can secure the dragon. Kennen can push in another wave on bot, which then creates this extra point of pressure, and with the Baron spawning again, it's again, like, you can just see the MAD Lions have a great awareness right now of what they should be doing on the map and how they just kind of force Fnatic to constantly answer to these waves that MAD are pushing in.
Yeah, the only thing I think they need to do now is just swap Nisqy and Chasy, because Nisqy has the TP available, so can actually try and push in that bot side, match Oscarinin, although you will have Humanoid's TP coming up in just a moment. Maybe they just try and go, hey, look, we pushed in bot lane enough, we don't mind giving up this tier 1. Let's just try and force a fight at Baron where they actually have the TP in and we can blow some of these summoners.
I was going to say, if I'm MAD Lions, I would just forget bot and I would look to try and force a fight, especially with this level 16 Kennen. Chasy feels so strong now. He's also grabbed the stopwatch. Fnatic doing what they can to stop MAD from getting into the river, but it's only going to stop them for so long.
Hilly's in a good flank position here if he can get in, but the crash down gets him out. Minions there as well means that the charm goes wide. Hylissang with the Magnus Sword, the Slice Smash are coming out, but the explosive cast is anti-synergy. Hostile takeover coming out as well, and Rekkles spell shields Elyoya the charm. Rekkles surviving on the back line, but so is Carzzy, and Carzzy has a lot more health and a few more years under his belt. A triple for Carzzy. The Zeri popping off, making a quadra, and one more to the list as Carzzy wipes away the fight.
The bot lane for MAD Lions pop off in the end. Great engage from Hilly, and Carzzy will happily claim the lives of Fnatic as they take game number 1.
I was concerned when I saw all of Fnatic being spread away from Chasy's ultimate. But Rekkles, he'd taken so much damage at the start of the fight, it did not matter. Carzzy and Hylissang come up clutch, and MAD are looking to take game 1.
And in the end, even though there was a bit of anti-synergy, the carry in the bot lane comes up trumps for the MAD Lions. Explosive cast to keep Fnatic on their fountain. They can only watch as their Nexus falls and MAD go 1-0 up.
A much better game from MAD Lions. There's been a lot of questions around their draft, how they've been overextending through their mid jungle, but this was control. This actually looked like the MAD Lions we saw in winter, whereas we can get these early leads, play through our top half of the map, and then look to leverage that in towards team fights. And they looked absolutely spectacular doing it. The way they controlled the map, brilliant.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how MAD played the game overall. The decisiveness from Elyoya when it came to the actual forcing of the fights, their management overall the map, as you were highlighting. And we'll have to see how Fnatic adapt, because now that their backs are against the wall, they potentially have 1 game left of spring, and then they're going to be taking a break until summer.
It's a long break until summer as well. You know, mid-June we come back for all things, so we'll have to see if any changes happen for the team, if they do end up losing this series. We're going to hand it over to the desk, who are standing by to break down that game.
Thank you very much, guys. MAD Lions take the game 1 here in this best of 3. And as the caster was saying, I think we got a glimpse of the MAD Lions we were used to seeing in the earliest stages of the year. And I want to talk about the draft here to open this series, because Nisqy back on Gragas. This is a champion that we've been waiting to see from him. But I really like the answers coming from Fnatic here. Maybe a discussion to be had on the Jarvan last pick. But outside of this, what did you think of the draft, Broxah?
I think overall, on paper, like you said, aside from the Jarvan, it's a draft that both teams can be fairly happy with. I like seeing Nisqy on Gragas again. Last time I was here for the final in winter, he was just destroying people in Gragas. Rekkles and Sivir, good team fighting for both sides. And at the end of the day, you know, it was a fairly close early game that just came down to execution around objectives.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think the way that Fnatic once again navigated their draft phase was fine for them. They see a B1 Vi. They still have the Sivir available going into second ban phase, get a good scaling lane with it. They also get their bot lane ahead in the early game. It seemed like even the Jarvan, although it didn't do too well, theoretically, is still a good pick into the Kennen, and it's why we see it, but just didn't in this instance. And yeah, just from the way it passed out, it should look good for Fnatic.
It can work. It didn't here. And as we said before the series, sometimes for both these teams, it comes down to the execution rather than the game plan itself. Let's talk about the early game here, because MAD Lions played to their win conditions, I mean, focusing on the top lane here and moving as a team especially and grabbing every opportunity they could, especially in this situation.
I like the way it's highlighted here. It's Carzzy making his way up first. He's not going to be a part of the fight, but even if it becomes a longer fight, he will be there before Rekkles. So MAD Lions already has the man advantage. They have the setup and they can absolutely go for the play in the beginning. A better option for Fnatic in this scenario would have been, all right, we know Carzzy's leaving. Rekkles, you get played for free and then you trade the gold that Rekkles would have gotten for the turret with what they are potentially getting with the Herald. Instead, they opt to stick around, and that gives MAD Lions a huge lead in the early game.
And I think that's the key part. They can try to bait MAD Lions to bring their AD carry there, so Rekkles gets an advantage in Sivir, but ending up in a fight, you know, where you just brute force a 4v5, really, like, that shouldn't be happening at this level.
But I think MAD Lions... I love this backstage moments, but MAD Lions got a bit hasty, I think, at one point as well, actually grabbing the advantage, having the early game in control, being proactive in the way we expected them to, but also picking the wrong fights when they don't have the perfect setup to do so.
That's why I absolutely love that Broxah is saying you shouldn't take a 4v5 at this level, because the next clip is MAD Lions taking a 4 versus 5 at this level.
But look how it turns out.
Yeah.
Look how it turns out. My point is proven.
Analysis brought to you by us today. You take a 4 versus 5, you probably lose.
But this was also the easiest fight for Rekkles to play the entire game, because they were 4, they could never reach the Sivir, and Rekkles was just killing everyone for free from the backline.
Yeah, so we had questions going into the day as well. One thing was like, Fnatic, with the way they are evolving, they're starting to look better. And from the early game until they made the Herald, it looked like that as well. Good early pathing from Razork, skip blue buff, came down to gank bot lane in the beginning, should get ahead. They make a stake with Herald, and suddenly it's actually MAD Lions with good setups. I'm like, wow, this was something you were really bad at last team, and now suddenly you have this setup, you make good plays, you make good decisions, and then I see the Drake fight, and then it's just straight back to, okay, I guess you don't.
And they stayed in control, MAD Lions stayed in control here, and what surprised me on the side of Fnatic is that I feel like they had some tools to fight back, and when I look at the Baron situation, for instance, with MAD Lions taking it, we don't see much fight on the side of Fnatic here in this setup, but for me they had the tools to bounce back and maybe try and contest here.
I think for Fnatic, they're just really tunnel visioning on the fact that I have a soul fight coming up, and they just kind of forget about topside. They're a bit scared to walk in and get vision. You just saw how long Fnatic did actually not have vision.
It's also really important here that, you know, when you check the Baron, you don't check it right here. You need to go up, you know, around the red buff wall where there's TP coming in right now, because if you come from that angle, if you clear that ward and you have some defensive vision, you can actually walk in, place a ward pretty safely over the wall, but because Razork walked in, you know, in front of his team, in that specific area, he just dies for free. And you shouldn't even be sending in Razork to begin with. He's your jungler. Once he's dead, that Baron is a free for MAD Lions 100%.
Yeah, that should have been vision set up early, and I love the way that it's highlighted out here, how long that actually goes in a little time lapse here of the Summoner's Rift, where nothing is really happening. They're collecting waves, they're scared. Someone either needs to escort Advienne there just to get some vision in the beginning, drop a ward just around the area. You don't need to see the Baron, but you need to have it, so you know when it gets cleared and he's on reset, you can try to set it up again. But they're too scared, and I understand why as well, because MAD Lions had majority of the control, but you can't just stand around doing nothing and then walk in with Razork, then you're just going to get blown apart, as we saw.
Yeah, absolutely, and some learnings to be taken now, actually, because if MAD Lions take the next game, Fnatic is out. This is the moment to come back for them. This is the moment they need to create the momentum we were talking about before the series. They chose the blue side going into the next game, Broxah. What kind of adaptation and improvements are we looking to see in the side of Fnatic? In the draft, I don't think so, but maybe more in-game in the way they approach things?
I think having blue side is always great. Like, there's barely ever been a meta that I can remember in the last 6 years where you would opt into red side, maybe aside from, a few specific teams. Blue lets them control the pace of draft. They can kind of opt into whatever first pick they want. MAD Lions is going to have to adapt. But like you said, it's not all about draft, because they could have played this game with whatever draft. If they play that way, they're going to lose. They're going to disappoint their fans. And they're going to have to step it up and actually play better, both individually and as a team, because a lot of the mistakes we saw should just not be happening in the LEC. It's the kind of obvious mistakes that we would expect in the first week and not now. So for Fnatic, I want to see them actually playing as a team. The individual play is okay for the most part, but be a team. MAD Lions showed that, sure, once in a while they're over-aggressive, they make mistakes, but at least they, play as one. If Fnatic can't do the same thing, this is going to be a quick series.
Nacha was saying that you thrive under pressure and playing the lower bracket. This is do or die here, so GB. Any last notes on Fnatic and the
this is really the majority of the pressure you're going to be feeling, isn't it? But I also think going into opting into this, I could easily see Fnatic either be like, well, we can get Sire on one. You're going to be forced to ban that. If you ban that, we're going to have priority on the VoD and Razork back on Comfort. We can look for something there. And then I really think if something Humanoid he can really have agency on, where he's good in a team fight too, that gives him the team fighting tools, because he really wasn't seen in this game. And I think he's a big part of Fnatic. And I agree with Broxah as well. A lot of it came down to execution. For me, it wasn't really a big drafting either. It was a lot of the mistakes we went over earlier.
I also think it's really important now that they actually get Nisqy off of Gragas. Should be easier to accomplish that now, being on blue side, but Humanoid needs to be able to step up in mid lane, and when he's up against Gragas, like, that champion is just not going to die. It's not going to happen. So they need, Nisqy on a typical mid laner, mage, whatever. So Razork can play with Humanoid, try to shut down Nisqy, and then go from there. Because when Fnatic has looked at their best, they play through Humanoid throughout the entire game.
The team has to come together now, facing elimination on the side of Fnatic. MAD Lions lead game 1, and we'll see if Fnatic can turn it around after the break. See you soon.